Good evening, guys. This has been quite a setup for tonight, to say the least. I've been cut by shaving. I have been trying to get this new stream set up with our trusty fill-in Ben, who's been helping us out with our clips and the shorts that we've been doing for a while. So it is going to come as a surprise, but we are on a little bit of a sabbatical right now because Colin is out for 2 weeks. So we'll be holding it down, but we hope you're all having a great evening. And if you haven't smashed that like button yet, please make sure that you do. Please like and share the stream. So we hope you're all doing well. Let's try to get this out there. I know we were a little late getting the stream uploaded this evening. Ben is trying to work out the bugs just to make sure that everything runs smoothly. So everybody give Ben a big shout out. Appreciate him being here. And of course, we couldn't possibly run an effective show without having MVPs behind the scenes. It's the things that you don't see very often that really makes the difference. Let's get right into it. Obviously, we know that I've got a lot to say about what's going on in Morocco and Spain. And there is no question in my mind that what we have here is a multi-pronged situation regarding why this happened. Let me be very clear. The reason this happened, and I believe this in my bones, and if you haven't hit that like button yet, guys, please make sure that you do. Let's try to get this out there. Like I said, we were late getting this set up this evening. So normally we have the stream set up either a day in advance or earlier. So it's going to take a little bit of time to really get this out there to people, but hopefully we are going to be able to do that. Spread the word, and remember, hitting that like button really does help us a great deal. So if you're here and you haven't hit it, please do. When we covered the World Cup a couple of weeks ago, we said that the final between Spain and Argentina was an inflection point regarding Israel and Palestine. The battle lines had been drawn. It was pretty clear at that moment exactly what direction people were going in. Those that were supporting Argentina, going all the way up to the top to Netanyahu, Gavir, and the rest, were supporting Israel. And Spain, people remember that the second European nation after Ireland that came out in support of the Palestinian people following October 7th was Spain. They knew what was coming. And so they've been a thorn in Israel's side for quite some time. So it should not come as any surprise that what is taking place here has the hallmarks, all of them have the hallmarks of a clandestine operation that has been going down evidently in advance of this moment. And evidently, Thomas Massie, who we all know is kind of a hero to me and to a lot of others, has been doing some incredible work. And that also includes, again, when you don't have anything to lose, we're going to talk about what Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Tucker Carlson are doing on Monday when Jen is here. The pros and the cons of what they're attempting to do. It was announced earlier today that the intention of Massie, Marjorie, and Tucker is either to form some type of an offshoot of the GOP, their own party, or their own movement within the GOP, kind of like what the DSA is doing within the Democratic Party right now. Time will tell. It turns out that with the exception of Massie, 2 weeks ago, the House passed a bill that greenlit the transfer of Spanish territory to Morocco. Every Republican except Massie voted for it. The language within this story is as follows. The committee notes that the Spanish-administered cities of Ceuta and Melilla, I believe that's how you pronounce it, are located in Moroccan territory and remain the subject of Morocco's long-standing claim. And the votes should come as no surprise. We're along party lines. The bill passed, and here we are. Now, many of you have probably seen this video. You could call it an invasion if you want, but we understand why this roughshod is happening. We understand why these people are surging to the border. It's not pretty. And there is reason to believe that this was a setup from the beginning. Now, when you see this many people showing up, surging to the border, and remember, this particular place, Ceuta in particular, is part of North Africa. It is not part of the Spanish mainland, but this is considered a Spanish territory, and it has been for centuries. But now, all of a sudden, they want to surge migrants to the border, invade. As many as 50 to 60,000 was sent in the matter of hours. This was always a plan. And so they executed their plan. Now, it turns out that it hasn't exactly gone as they expected it to. And as our lovely Amy is pointing out so precisely, it totally happened organically. Nothing unique. Don't ask questions. And therein lies the rub. So we have an article, and again, there's a lot of different organizations out there that write. Considering what Al Jazeera just did with their journalists, Middle East Eye was already trending in the direction of what was my favorite outlet for news. It's now officially my favorite outlet for news, period. And so here we are. To the top, Ben, please. Spanish commentators accuse Israel and U.S. of involvement in Ceuta crisis. Obviously, you have the bill to prove it. Thank you, Congressman Massey. And for those who are wondering, just want to make sure that if anybody decides to look this up and wants to know exactly what the bill was, because that information is important. This is, let's see. Roll call on House Resolution, the National Security, Department of State, and Related Programs Appropriations Act. I'm going to try filling that mouthful. But it's H.R. 8595, in case you were wondering. Some 60,000 people crossed into Ceuta from Morocco this week, including around 8,000 children. That's risky. All right, let's scroll down. Right there. Ben, can you make it a little bit bigger? That's good. I could do with that. That's fine. A Spanish minister has suggested Israel was stirring problems over 60,000 migrants crossing from Morocco into Spain's North African enclave of Ceuta. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, we've covered that dipshit before, posted on X on Friday, Spain, which never misses an opportunity to lecture Israel, has declared a state of emergency in Ceuta following the crisis over its immigration policy. Maybe before it continues lecturing us, it's time it explained to the world why it still maintains colonial enclaves in Africa. I don't know. Why do you maintain colonial enclaves all over the world, including Gaza and the West Bank? Remember, hypocrisy knows no bounds. Sharing Danon's post, Spanish Transport Minister Oscar Puente remarked, well, it all seems to be becoming quite clear. This comes as numerous Spanish politicians and commentators have alleged that Israel and the U.S. have sought to cause trouble for Spain in retaliation for the Spanish government's opposition to the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran and Israel's war on Gaza. Let me also point out, in case you were wondering if there was another reason as to why this was happening, and you can scroll down, Ben. Do not think for a second that there was not extra motivation on the part of Israel and the U.S. as a payback for the embarrassment that Spain levied on Argentina and with it, Israel, during the World Cup. I know it can't be the only reason, but it's a reason. Gabriel Rufan, the parliamentary spokesperson for the Republican left of Catalonia, a left-wing party, argued that the crisis served American and Israeli interests. Spanish journalist Jose Visner, meanwhile, shared a 2019 social media post by Yair Netanyahu, the son of Israel's prime minister, discussing alleged Israeli support for separatism in Ceuta. Prominent Spanish actor Javier Bardem shared a video accusing Israel of being behind the crossings. Former Portuguese minister and commentator Bruno Maisa said that whether or not the U.S. and Israel were involved before the fact, they were deeply involved and intensely active after the fact, especially trying to use it against the current Spanish government. Ceuta, a Spanish territory on Morocco's Mediterranean coast, in Melilla, another Spanish autonomous city on the country's northern coast, share the only land borders between the European Union and Africa. Scrolling, Ben. Some 60,000 people crossed into Ceuta from Morocco this week, including around 8,000 children, according to the Spanish government. Footage posted online showed people swimming into the enclave around the border barrier, with some wearing swimsuits and using flotation rings to make the dangerous journey. Again, where did they get that from? Diplomatic facts over migrant crossings. So France said it was increasing checks along its border with Spain, while Italy threatened to suspend Spain from the EU's internal open border scheme. Well, they've already done that. But on Saturday, Spain said most migrants, around 48,000, had already returned to Morocco, ushered by Spanish soldiers. Videos online showed migrants hiding in tunnels and walking around on the streets of Ceuta. At least 67 people are believed to have died while attempting to reach the enclave. It is unclear what prompted the wave of attempted crossings, but there have been previously had been similar incidents. Interesting. In May of 21, 8,000 Moroccans entered the enclave amid a diplomatic dispute between Spain and Morocco over Western Sahara. At the time, Spain accused Morocco of using migrants as leverage, and a Moroccan minister said Morocco was justified in relaxing its border control as a response to the diplomatic dispute. Some commentators have accused Morocco of facilitating this week's crossings, pointing to the Moroccan government's anger at Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's recent visit to Algeria. That's the nation that borders Morocco. Spain's biggest gas supplier. Lorenzo Gabriele, a senior researcher at Pompeu Fabra University in Barcelona, who researches migration in Ceuta, told the New York Times, it is impossible for nearly 50,000 people to cross the border between Morocco and Spain in a single day without Morocco having a hand in it, and the U.S. and Israel. Ceuta President Juan Jesus Vivas condemned the migration as a violation of Spain's territorial integrity. Morocco's ambassador to Spain, Karima Bayanic. We have always prioritized legal, orderly, and safe migration for all. She insisted the crossings have been against the wishes of the Moroccan government. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald called the situation a catastrophe and added, if it were not in office, our country will be invaded at levels that will make Spain look small time. Any opportunity to brag about himself, the braggadocious one, as he generally tends to be. There is no question in my mind that this was an attempt to try to, as I said, get back at the Spanish for winning the World Cup, for being vocal against the genocide, for also not supporting the war in Iran. Maybe some people just don't like war. Maybe some people don't actually want to die for a cause that makes no sense. And every day we get a little bit closer to completely breaking free of this Zionist catastrophe, because that's what it's been. It's been a catastrophe for everyone in this country and beyond, having to deal with this appendage that we call Israel. And it is going to be very interesting whether or not they attempt to do anything again, but this seems like a complete misfire. And apparently, Ceuta has already discussed putting a fence around their borders. Now, yes, there are some things that, when they're big and beautiful, you never know what you can accomplish. In the end, I think they're getting exactly the type of comeuppance that one would expect them to get. I don't think anybody here had any illusions about why it happened, what was the motivation. I think we all recognize that this was a move that was fully intended. But here's the thing that's going to be interesting, and this actually is going to transition us into the next story. We talk about elections and the impacts that they can have. And we've been talking at great length about the impact that these elections can have when we're talking about the American elections on the Democratic side and on the progressive side, particularly with Shama Sawant coming up. But what is going to happen now on the Republican side? How are things going to change in the GOP? Especially with younger voters, we know that will change. Perhaps the hardened older voters will, stay the same. They won't change as much. But there is no question that one of the big takeaways from this particular moment is that a lot of people are looking at this incident and saying, oh yeah, Israel was totally behind it. Now, they were partially behind it for sure, but the U.S. was behind it as well. And what's going to happen when all of the elected GOP members are met swiftly by their constituents saying, why did you get yourself entangled in this? Why would you vote in favor of this? And that is a very important question that I'm not entirely sure who running for office is going to be answering that question, but there is a lot to be said for those that are still being protected. We have several big elections coming up on Tuesday. We will talk more about them on Monday as well. Now, even though his election is not until the 18th, I want to give a shout out to Oliver Larkin, who we're hopefully going to have on the stream before the election. When you go on Fox News, this is how you handle your business.
It is fine with you. Is there a benchmark? Is it fine? How many children can be raped and it's fine if you're in relation to the immigration community?
If we're going to talk about children being raped, then we need to hold this pedophile president, Donald Trump, accountable, and all those that have been implicated by the Epstein files that the Department of Justice is still not leaking. And they've sent AIPAC after Thomas Massie for having the temerity to hold
Larkin,
accountable the pedophiles that are in control of our government.
Thank you. We appreciate your time very much.
Get him off. Get him off. Can't have him on. He can't be talking like that. Hypocrisy knows no bounds when, of course, you're going after other people and those that are not in the club. Now, Oliver, who I like personally, known him for several years, statistically, say that his election is still a very, very outside shot, and it probably is. However, if you're going to have a platform and you're going to use it well, this is one of those ways to do it, and I appreciate him doing it. They're all hypocrites. Now, when you think about how things are unfolding, particularly with the Senate race, I do believe that Abdul El-Sayed is going to win. I believe he might actually win easily. And perhaps that is the sea change that is happening. But I've also been clear that if he does win, the Democratic establishment is going to basically work to get Mike Rogers elected. They'll go all in on Tellerico in Texas. But they're not really as concerned about whether or not, hey, you know, can we win the Senate? Well, as long as we win it on our terms, we're not going to lose the Senate on the progressives' terms. And Shama also came out and talked about the fact that Planned Parenthood just came out and endorsed Adam Smith. Is that surprising to anybody? Well, it shouldn't be. Adam Smith is obviously in the club, and so is Planned Parenthood. Deceptively, as I have pointed out time and again, and I'll point it out here, Planned Parenthood, as much as any NGO organization, works tirelessly behind the scenes to make sure single-payer healthcare never becomes law. Why? Because if single-payer was law, they really wouldn't have a need for Planned Parenthood, at least nowhere near in the capacity that it's currently in. And that means dollars go away, and that means jobs go away. The for-profit health system is all interconnected, even to organizations like Planned Parenthood. So the frustrations from Shama and anybody else is very well understood. And so that shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody either. I think Cori Bush has an excellent chance of winning her race. I think the district, which is a overwhelmingly black district that she was representing in Missouri's first district, which is St. Louis and East St. Louis, and Wesley Bell, who is a total Uncle Tom, does the dance, Bojangles style, for the Israel lobby. He got like 11 or 12 million dollars when he ran the first time. This time he's gotten not nearly as much, but he's gotten a lot. I think like 6 or 7 million. I mean, who knows what type of a rush that they're going to, push at the 11 o'clock hour to try to make sure that he can get over the finish line. But Cori's in very good shape. A good friend of mine who's on the ground there has said that things are looking very good for Cori. She deserves to be on Capitol Hill. She's done some good stuff. I don't agree with everything that she does, but I know her heart's in the right place. In addition to that, I think that Haley Stevens is a prime example of somebody who was just a really lousy candidate. You can't sell shit. You can try, but she's just total shit. And Abdul El-Sayed is a great candidate. And when you have a great candidate, anything can happen. As Henry Kajawa says, it's all BS. If we had single payer, lots of jobs would go away, but lots of new jobs would be created. Yes. In fact, I would say if you're looking for a reason why single payer is not the law of the land, and one of the main reasons why we're still trying to prove to people that this is the right way to go, it's very simple. If you had a single payer healthcare system, you wouldn't be obligated to stay with your employer to get your health insurance. And that's a big thing for companies like Walmart and Amazon. They count on the desperate. So that's why these organizations all work together. It's why single payer is the single most important piece of legislation that could pass in our lifetime, that could change the most amount of lives, on the domestic side anyway. And that's something that Oliver Larkin will fight for. That's something that Abdul El-Sayed will fight for. That is something that Shama Sawant is definitely going to fight for. And it is certainly something that Cori Bush has fought for and will fight for again if she is fortunate enough to win on Tuesday as well. There are other candidates who are running in various races that are progressive, and those elections could have considerable consequences as well. Now, Ben, I believe I sent you one other clip. We can take this one down of Oliver, and we could pull it, any of the ones that are just there that don't need to be there at this point. But I sent you one. Let me make sure that I did. I'm pretty sure I did. Let me double check. If I didn't, I will resend it. Okay. I haven't sent it. I don't know how long it would take you to upload it. But I will send it, and you'll give me a quick thumbs up if this is something that can be uploaded. All right, just sent it over, so give it a quick look-see, and if we can get that up, in the next minute or two, that'd be great. I will absolutely, Bojangles. The irony's not lost on me. And we'll fight for other Peter Parkers and well, I won't fight for Thiels. I don't know why you think I'm going to fight for him. He's fighting to end us. Never forget, this is a man who sat down for an interview and said, I'm not really sure if humanity deserves to survive. And he's being very honest about that. I think what he really wanted to say is, no, humanity's not going to, but then he stopped himself and he thought about it and realized, yeah, this kind of makes me look really shitty. So maybe I shouldn't say that. And that in itself, I think, was a very big deal. Now, guys, if you haven't hit that like button yet, please make sure that you do. Please like and share the stream. Ben, give me a thumbs up if you can get it, if it's going to be quick. That's what I'm talking about. And you know what's interesting is that that thumbs up actually came up from me. There's like other things that I could do that I can make the screen. It's like happy birthday, celebrate. There's like certain words that it also picks up on. Isn't it amazing what this AI is doing? We're going to get to Nick Fuentes in a little while. You'll understand why I really want to wring that little bastard's neck. I didn't have the containment fence up. No, that's okay. You're good. I see what you just wrote, but that's fine. So there is an element here that I don't want people to forget about these elections. And as I've said, I think you have every right to support who you think is the right person to support in any given situation. I do think electoral politics matters. I don't think they're going to solve our problems. That's going to be up to us. But as I pointed out before, and we'll discuss further on Monday, because for a number of them who might ultimately get into elected office, it's the same story when it comes to somebody like Zoran. Zoran is not necessarily the person who is going to lead the effort from an elected body, but he's not going to get in the way. He's not somebody who's going to be like, oh, I'm in a position of power now, so now I have to fight against the people. No, in fact, he is the type of person who's going to step aside, who is going to allow people to get through the door now that would otherwise have not been able to do so beforehand. Unfortunately, we can't say that for everybody who's in an elected office, including somebody who a lot of people think is going to be running for president of the United States.
Surprised to see, you know, how excited people are when there's these polling numbers showing this buzz, as they say, about you and your candidacy.
Yeah, I am surprised by it. You know, I think sometimes people would talk about it, and I was always candidly like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, whatever.
We're talking about being the leader of the free world here. We're not talking about winning, you know, prom queen. We're talking about something of incredible consequence, and yet, I mean, you all know what my opinion is of Emma Vigeland. And obviously, I am highly skeptical of Alex. I have been for a very long time. You'll bear with me, brother. We all have to suffer together. Now, I bring this up because I thought to myself, well, why is it that Alex is endorsing El Sayed in this race, even though it's clear that the establishment wants Haley Stevens? And it kind of dawned on me what it really came down to. It turns out that El Sayed might have actually been a sure thing from the very beginning. She might have carefully assessed that, oh, he's great and she's terrible. I actually, and I said this from the beginning, you guys remember, I actually said, if McMorrow was still in the race, I actually think she would have had a better shot. I think she had a better personality than Stevens did. And now, obviously, that's sat in spades, for sure. That being said, there is another gentleman who is running for a congressional seat in Michigan, who apparently is a very solid progressive, I believe. His last name is Russell. If anybody in the chat can remind me of who is the who is the other congressional progressive running right now that has a reasonably decent chance of winning on Tuesday? And he's been endorsed by a plethora of who's who within the progressive movement. Tlaib, Omar, Bernie. Somebody's got to remind me in the chat, because like I said, I think his name is something Russell, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure that that's his name. But the point is, all of these progressives, they've all come out and have endorsed him, except her. You name the people. I'm getting upset with you guys. You guys are not helping. Come on, where's my awesome chat? No, it's not the Asian governor lady. It's another gentleman who's running. I think he's running in the 13th congressional district. I think that that's the one. I think it's MI 13. Progressive. Come on, give me something. You've got Donovan McKinney. That he's running against Sharif Anadir, but that's not the one he's running against. But the point is, there is a no. Come on, guys. There is a person that is running in Michigan who is, it's not Donovan McKinney. He's the guy who's running against the Zio nutjob. There's one other gentleman who's running. Michigan primary. I'm pretty sure his name is Russell. Is it No, it's not Russell Berman. That's not. Not getting it. But anyway, if anybody comes up with the name, maybe it's Russell Berman. Maybe that's him, David. I think you might be right. Okay. So here's the thing. If this name is correct, and I believe it is, so Russell Berman, no, it's not Bill Russell. Good try, though. Russell Berman has been endorsed by the entire progressive wing, essentially, led by Abdul El-Sayed, mind you. Or Richard B. Russell Jr. Let me make sure. I think you might be right. So I knew that Russell was in the name. Richard Russell. Primary. No, that is not it. I think you guys are throwing me off here. I'm going to go with David Hunter. He knows what he's talking about. I'm pretty sure it's Russell Berman. So anyway, the point is, all of these guys, and I do mean all of them, endorsed him in the election. But Alex didn't endorse him. I mean, if everybody thinks he's such a swell progressive guy, why wouldn't you endorse? I would think for this election, that'd be a pretty big deal. But no endorsement. None. Okay, now I'm getting another one with Richard Russell Jr. Okay, whoever it is, if it's Russell Berman or Richard Russell Jr., I would have to do a poll on this thing. But the whole pomp and circumstance is what I find the most distasteful about politics. This is about real world consequences. This is about people's lives, livelihoods. And all the while, Alex goes on to talk with Emmer Vigeland. To talk about what? To talk about more cheerleading? Hey, aren't the Dems great? Aren't we going to change the world and all of it? She's telling you who she is, and yet there are too many people who are going to get caught up in this. The only way she wins is if she caves, and she wants that power. And in my opinion, she will cave. All the signs point to it that she will. She's fortifying her positions to make sure that she has a support network to get through there. And in some cases, she probably will. Zoran might very well support her. We know that Hassan Piker is going to basically be who's going to run her campaign outreach. That's for sure, especially when it comes to phone bank engagement, things of that nature. And they'll do well. They will. But in some ways, it also shows you how dead the party really is. Let's keep that in mind. We'll finish it up.
But then some of these polls came out, and I'm like, what is happening? I was in Memphis, and Justin Pearson, you know, we were campaigning for him, and there were some folks actually that had driven out from Arkansas, and they were talking about like the straw polls out there, and I'm like, I don't, you know, but I think people are pissed off.
Yeah.
This gobbledygook, giggly shit is not going to work. Who do you think this is going to work on? And that doesn't mean that there aren't certain policies that Alex wouldn't fight for that wouldn't be good. But this is life and death for a lot of people. And there is a lot of people who are looking at the dollar signs of her run and saying, well, it doesn't really matter if she wins or not. It just matters that she is going to run, and I believe she's going to run. But this whole like, oh my God, me, little old me? You want me to run for president? This isn't a pep rally. This is real life. Do I think that she could be a VP pick? Yeah, I could see that. And I also want people to recognize that you can't just flip over the board and say, we're not going to support anybody in the Democratic Party. We're not going to have any influence. You be strategic. Strategy is everything. And so when we think about the upcoming elections on Tuesday, you've got 3 top-notch candidates who are running, who have a real chance to win. And let's make sure that they do. Kshama Sawant, Abdul El-Sayed, and Cori Bush. If you ask me, that would be one hell of a day to get Kshama to the top 2, to get Saeed the nomination, and to get Cori a walkthrough to re-election should she win the primary. That's what we should be aiming for. That is the most likely scenario that in my gut is telling me that could happen. And so here's hoping for the best. Now, I've been kind of indifferent for a long time about LeBron James and what he represents. I've never liked him. I always found his shtick to be very manufactured. He's an all-time great player, but he's not the second greatest basketball player of all time, despite what people may think. He's a top 10 player. I'll put him up there. But the second best? No. Seen enough of basketball over 30 years to know who's there and who isn't there. And let's not even get started with what's going to happen once he's not playing anymore and people start to leak the stories about the PEDs, the manipulation behind the scenes that no one ever heard about. All of this is going to come out. Kenman, you can have your opinion, but it's wrong. He's not the greatest player of all time. I don't think Bill Russell is the greatest player of all time. The greatest basketball player of all time is Michael Jordan. This is not debatable. And if you ask me who's the second greatest player of all time, there was a lot that came behind that. Karina, it's been a while, sweetie. It's good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Kobe's an interesting player because when I talk about all-time great basketball players and the players that truly had the greatest impact, in my opinion, you cannot be one of the greatest, or you can't be up there on that level unless you're an unquestionable two-way player. What that means is you have to be dominant on both sides of the ball. You have to be as effective doing both. I know you may think that sports are irrelevant, Adin. Not in this case. We'll get to that in a second. When I think about the all-time dominant basketball players, the players that did it on both sides, I think of Michael Jordan. I think of I mean, Bill Russell, I mean, he was as dominant as you could be defensively, but he wasn't a dominant offensive player. Wilt Chamberlain was a dominant player on both sides of the ball. They had to create rules to stop him. They did. Kareem, when he was especially in his first 10 years in the league, I mean, he was as dominant as anybody. And he would have, I mean, there were years he was averaging 5 block shots a game. Larry Bird is one of the greatest players of all time. In my opinion, he's in the top 5. People really don't know how great a player he actually was defensively. And offensively, forget it. He's as good as anybody that's ever played. Hakeem Olajuwon, in my opinion, is the best all-around center that ever played. Tim Duncan is the best all-around power forward that ever played the game. Scottie Pippen was an all-time great basketball player, but he was not the player that you went to when the game was on the line all too often. And while he is a superior defensive player, he was a very, very good offensive player, but he was not a great offensive player. Remember, this is reserved for the top guys, the guys who unquestionably have it. And I bring this up when it comes to somebody like LeBron James, because I've watched LeBron James's career. The greatest season of LeBron James's career was 2013 with the Miami Heat. And that was, I was living in South Florida. I watched a good amount of their games. He was an all-time great. But this is a guy who has had major control over our media sphere in the sports arena for many, many years. He's carefully curated his image. And there is a reason why right now he is thinking about his post-playing days and what he's going to do. And who is it that he's going to work with? Who is he going to get involved with? And it leads me to what I found to be one of the more unique angles of this story about why did LeBron James choose to go to Philadelphia? Because in many respects, it didn't make sense on paper. Why exactly did he choose to do this? And it kind of dawned on me that his decision to go there has a lot to do, and I'm not sure if I sent this to you or not, Ben. Let me grab it. Could have sworn that I did. But no, okay. So I'm going to read something to you guys, but I want you to see this image because this is going to tell the story. Very, very crystal clear. Ben, there is a link to the YouTube story that I put out a little over a couple hours ago. So if you can, I just sent you the link. If you want to just click it and pull that up. So I want people to see this. He was scared of a lot of things, and criticizing China was one of several. Magic Johnson is the greatest point guard of all time. He is surrounded by a number of all-time great point guards, including John Stockton, who in my opinion is 2. Then you can go a lot of different ways. Steve Nash, Jason Kidd, Isaiah Thomas. But Magic was the greatest point guard. The only reason why I don't put Magic at the very, very top is because he wasn't a great defensive player. And to me, that matters. So if those are wondering, why is it that LeBron decided to choose Philadelphia? Did you get the link, Colin? Colin, sorry. That's going to happen a couple of times. It will. Ben, you got the link? I texted it to you. It should be easy to pull up. Okay. The Chosen People. For his final act, LeBron chooses the 76ers, owned by 3 prominent Jewish philanthropists, David Blitzer, Josh Harris, David Edelman. Who are these clowns? How are these guys involved? What is their business? Well, I'm going to tell you. I took some notes. What is it about Josh Harris, the principal owner, and his two partners, David Blitzer and David Edelman? Well, yes, if you're wondering, yes, all three of them are Jewish. That goes without saying. There's more to it than that. I am going to count the ways for all of you guys for what these three men are involved in. Here are some of the philanthropic projects the three owners of the Philadelphia 76ers are involved in. Birthright Israel, supported at one of its top giving tiers. You want to talk about who gives the most money for the, what's it called again? Birthright? The birthright trips? These are the guys. They're three of the most influential and financially, the biggest financial contributors to this cause. Those three guys are at the very top. United Hatzalah, Israel's volunteer emergency medical service. They fund that. The UGA Federation of New York. And that is the, I don't want to make a mistake here. UGA Federation of New York. That is the, come on, what does it stand for? Can't you just spell it out? What does the UGA stand for? It's not saying. The United Jewish Appeal Federation of Jewish Philanthropies. Oh, okay. Well, that explains it. Took a little while, but finally found it. The Jewish Federation of Greater Philadelphia. The Horowitz Wasserman Holocaust Memorial Plaza in Philadelphia, from funding through construction. So they funded the construction of this building. American Friends of Magen David Adom. Israel's National Emergency Medical and Blood Service. The Anti-Defamation League, the ADL. You know, Josh Greenblatt? Yeah, they pay his salary. It's those guys. The USC Shoah Foundation, whose board includes one of the owners alongside his role as vice chair of the Philadelphia Holocaust Remembrance Foundation. Hillel International. You know, when you see those organizations pop up on college campuses, this is a big part of it. Jewish National Fund and Women's International Zionist Organization. And here comes a big one. The 48ers, not the 49ers, the 48ers, an Israeli youth basketball league that grew from a program for Ethiopian Jewish youth into more than 25 teams serving kids from underserved communities. You bet your ass I'll be going on Birthright soon enough. And a girls' basketball initiative with the Israeli nonprofit, The Equalizer, aimed at reaching parity between girls and boys' teams in Israel's periphery. Now you ask yourself, why do they go to such lengths to do this? Why do they have so many NGOs? Everything is about controlling the economic infrastructure. That is the whole premise of everything that they do. That includes every time you see some Fed slop that gets thrown out there, you're wondering why these influencers are getting paid, and then they are spewing this garbage that makes absolutely no sense. Well, now you understand why. LeBron James has a lot to answer for, and I mean a lot. Whether or not he was taking PEDs is the least of his concerns. This is a person who has frequented Diddy parties. This is a person who has spoken glowingly about the state of Israel. This is a person who has probably done a lot of nefarious things that have been kept under wrap for a very long time. And who knows if it will continue. But of all the teams he could have chosen, you can make the argument that, yeah, he chose the team which is going to be the easiest path potentially to the NBA Finals. I am not convinced of that. But let's just assume, for argument's sake. Kenman, I can't answer that question. I don't know for sure. I'm not going to say he has, and then it turns out that he hasn't. But let's be honest. If you're going to a Diddy party, is it really that different from going to an Epstein party? I guess it depends on the amount of baby oil. He did say, ain't no party like a Diddy party. What do they have on him? Why is LeBron always minding his P's and Q's when talking about China, but also Israel? He has not offered an ounce of criticism, not anything. He's never said a word about what's going on. In fact, he has spoken very glowingly about Israel. Whereas his former teammate, who was the real reason they won that championship in 16, Kyrie Irving, is a fucking hero. They talk about that championship in 2016 like it was all LeBron, and he brought the championship to Cleveland. No, you stupid moron. He had help, a lot of help, especially from Kyrie Irving. When we talk about the all-time great players, and I don't know if Kenman is breaking my balls or he's being dead serious about saying that LeBron James is the greatest player of all time. Here's what I know for absolute certainty. If the game is on the line with 2 minutes to go and it's a 3-5-point game, or dare I say, it's a 1-point game, you have possession and you are down a point with 10 seconds to go, who do you want to have the ball in their hands with the game on the line? Are you picking LeBron James over Michael Jordan or Larry Bird or Charles Barkley? Heck, I wouldn't pick him over Kyrie Irving. That, to me, ends the conversation about whether or not he's at that level, because he's not. He's an all-time great. In fact, I would even put him in the top 10. But he's not the greatest. And in addition to that, it is going to be a relief when he's finally gone, because I don't enjoy basketball anymore. And this is the sport I played. I love the game. I always will, but I hate what it's become. And it is essentially like Trump has basically created politics in his image. LeBron has converted the NBA into his image. And it sucks. And now we're going to have to hear him and listen to him for the next couple of years. At least. I don't know why he keeps playing. I really don't get it. And if anybody is questioning at this point whether or not he's on the level in terms of what he puts in his body, you know, Jen likes to say very often, and it isn't just about politics, it's about life in general. People need upper management. They need somebody to cling on to believe in, that person, that's my guy. He looks out for me. He knows where things are at. Nope. Nope. It was all an illusion. I can list many different reasons. But more than anything else, LeBron James is an example of what is so very wrong with modern society in so many ways. The man is rich beyond anybody's wildest dreams. He could easily be making an incomprehensible amount of impact on the world if he really wanted to. But he doesn't. He could, again, he wants to be an influencer. He wants to be somebody that people gravitate to. But what it actually requires for you to do that, for you to be remembered, is you have to be willing to be hated. And that includes by very powerful people. And he's not willing to do that because he loves his very privileged life. He poses as somebody who actually is taking risks, but in reality, he's not taking any risks. Now you're speaking my language. That's exactly what we need. We need a lot more Michael Collins and a lot less LeBron posers. Why does everybody keep thinking I dye my hair purple? Maybe it's the ring light. You know, I thought the ring light was helping. Now everybody thinks I've got purple hair. That's funny. I am beyond frustrated with the way things have shaped up in the NBA. I'm happy for my close friends from back home that are Knicks fans. They finally got their ring. Now, and yes, he did, one James. LeBron most certainly campaigned for Hillary. He also campaigned for Kamala. And thanks, Ben. Appreciate you doing that, buddy. Our lovely binary fairy points out, LeBron James' estimated net worth is $1.4 billion, and yet he still plays. For what purpose? He, as much as anybody, pays attention to what the public says about him. So you really have to ask yourself, what is it that Israel has on this guy? What is it that the State Department has on this guy? I don't know. But there's no question that if there is a smoke, there's fire, this is the circumstance. LeBron James will be remembered for a lot of things. And unfortunately, so much of what he will be remembered for has yet to be revealed. Now, when it comes to revealing who you are and letting the world know that you are anything but a truth teller and more a fraud than anything else, I have been emphasizing to people as long as possible that Nick Fuentes is somebody who is very gifted at what he does. He's got very strange hands. But all jokes aside, he is a very gifted orator, and he speaks to a segment, particularly of the young male population, that is extremely frustrated at the world. You can call them incels if you choose. But in many ways, these are people who have simply not been able to succeed in society, and they seek an outlet. And he is their voice. But he is also somebody who is he's going to dog walk a lot of people into very bad situations. I'm not going to play it here, but he recently came out and said, I am sorry, Erica Kirk. I had you all wrong. You're a grieving widow. You must be telling the truth. The only type of person who says something like that is somebody who's got something under their fingernails. You know, much like LeBron has what he has under his, Fuentes has his as well. Now, do I really care as much about whether or not he gives away the game when he talks about somebody like an Erica Kirk? No, because in the end, that's not really of much consequence to each and every one of us now, is it? It's just gossip, slop, if you will. But you know what isn't gossip? You know what is slop? This is.
Just another goys at
That's all I'll
$20.
say.
Thoughts on flock cameras and data centers in rural areas affecting PPLS labs?
You know, the data center thing is just like, I support the data centers.
You know, much like when we say, if you support Israel, that's the end of the conversation. Well, if you support surveillance centers, which is what they are, among other things, that's the end of the conversation. I don't care how talented you are. I don't care how gifted you are. There is only two distinct possibilities as to why somebody would say, I'm totally down with the data centers. It's because you're being paid to, or you're blackmailed, or both. What in the fuck does he know about data centers? Nothing. He don't know shit. But he knows enough to say, I support data centers. Now, I would imagine anybody who lives near a data center would want to have it out with him if they heard him say that. Because as I've said before, he has legitimate influence. There are people who listen to him, and I've often said, if you really want to know who's influential, Fuentes is influential, Piker's influential, Candace is influential. Pay attention to the people who can get other people to do volunteer work for them, or show up at events for them, or contribute in various ways for them. And Fuentes has that ability. He comes out and says, I support data centers, without even a hint of irony. He's got more to say.
I think that the data centers should have to invest in the community, no doubt about it. Like, they should subsidize the electricity. Anything that the data centers do, it should not put a burden on any of the resources. So they need to be held accountable. If they pollute the water, if there's noise pollution, if they create electricity scarcity or a rise in prices, the data center should off-put all of that. I'm a big...
Now, when I say that he doesn't know jack shit about this information, about data centers or surveillance centers, I mean just that. He doesn't know shit. Because the idea that he's going to make a statement like that, you know, if they do anything wrong to the environment, it's got to be on their end. They got to be responsible for that. Have you not been paying even a modicum of attention as to what these centers are doing to communities? Have you not paid any attention to what the billionaire class is doing to destroy communities that dare to defy them and say we won't have it here? They tell them, you're going to get fucked 9 ways to Sunday, up your ass and out your mouth. And how in the hell he doesn't know this? But that also goes to show you who takes content creation seriously and who is strictly doing it for clicks and bucks. And he's one of them who does it strictly for those reasons. You have to know that this is a crisis of epic proportions, of insane proportions. If he's not being called out left and right for this statement, then when people say that you're in a cult, then they're right. This is beyond unacceptable, because I guarantee you that there isn't a soul alive that has to live anywhere near a surveillance center and says, yeah, this is great. This is exactly what we need. No, it's a dystopian fucking nightmare. And it's only a certain class of people that are advocating for it. And when you see the scumbags that are involved with the land leasing and the construction, industrial, commercial real estate build of these properties, it make your fucking head blow off. A lot of them are hardened criminals, white-collar criminals, so it's not nearly as dirty. And don't think it's lost on anybody that they call it white-collar crime. But it's bad. It's bad. I always say, you wouldn't know. Put the shoe on the wrong foot, and then you'd have a better idea of just how bad it is. Go live around a data center for a day and see how you like it. See if it strikes your fancy. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe you won't like it. But we know enough to know that all reports universally is this is wrong. This is evil. We don't need this. And the fact of the matter is we don't. As much as people like to postulate about the importance of advancing technology, the fact of the matter is the people who always pontificate the loudest about the need for data centers are people in extremely comfortable economic positions. It's always them. It is always a class war. It will always be a class war. That is never going to change. We'll always know where somebody stands on a key issue based on their class. Now, there are class traders, don't get me wrong, but Fuentes is not a class trader. In fact, he's a class climber, which is what he's desperate to keep doing.
Believer in, if there's negative externalities, they need to pay for it. But I think they're a boon. I think they're a big boon to the economy. I support them. Flock camera is a little more complicated. I'm generally anti-surveillance because it can be used against us. Yeah. But I don't think people should go out and destroy them because I don't want you to go to jail.
Is that what you don't think they should do? So I think violating our 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendment rights in the Constitution is not a good idea. But you shouldn't destroy those cameras because reasons. You'll go to prison. Yeah. Those things were put in without people's permission, and they don't want them there. And yet they're there. And you think people don't have a right to say, get this the fuck out of here? They go directly through their people. They go through the city council. They go through the county commission. What is it doing? Nothing. Because even if they vote against it, the billionaire class, the leadership, the ruling class, if you get in the way of their money, they will come after you with everything they have. Now, not all of them are psychopathic, but a lot of them are. And Fuentes knows this. This isn't a secret. Look at that fuckhead in New Jersey that I just covered the other day. And who's he? He's probably not even a billionaire. He's rich, but he's not at that level. And he's coming after that community for $300 million because they dared to vote against his data center. This is what's going to happen everywhere. This is what is going to now happen as a result of Trump executing the executive order in Boulder City, in Southeast Nevada, just outside of Vegas. Now it's on public land. You think that's the last one? They probably got dozens of them lined up ready to go once the first domino falls. I live in a world of black and white. I am very crystal clear about my beliefs. I make mistakes. I'm not perfect. But the one thing I hope that anybody who watches this channel can take away from what I say on a regular basis is that you never have to question whether I have ulterior motives. I do what I do and I say what I say because I give a damn. Someone asked me recently, if you had a reason to ever run for office, what would it be? And I said, pretty simple. My country is falling apart and no one is doing anything to stop it. I don't want to be involved to the extent that I'm involved in, but I feel like I have no other choice. Because I feel that if I don't, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. I have to speak out against this. I have to use whatever platform I have to try to bring about help, that maybe this gets through to certain people that need to hear it. Because it's dangerous. And I worry if we'll get it right in time. I do.
But I'm against the flock cameras. I just don't like the warrantless spying. I don't like this idea that they're just collecting information about everything you do. Increasingly, there's just no freedom anymore. You can't move money without it being watched. You can't move your car without it being watched. You can't go anywhere without being recorded on audio and video. We truly live in a surveillance state. So I'm basically against every and any expansion of that. It's too much. It's too much. You already got tollways. You got fucking satellites. You got phones. Now you need license plate readers everywhere, and you don't need a warrant to get the information. You don't have enough fucking data on everybody. It's like everybody's got a GPS camera microphone in their pocket. That's not enough. Cell towers, tollway cameras. So I'm against flock cameras, but I'm going to stop short of saying you should take matters into your own hands and blow them up, because I don't want you to go to jail, and I think there'll be a crackdown on that.
Veronica sent $50.
Yeah. It is kind of also amazing how much money he makes off of his channel and how his followers are so generous with their cash. But as I said, no, there is no point about flock cameras. And here's the thing. The flock cameras are being taken down. The flock cameras are being taken down, and they're being replaced by other surveillance cameras known as Axon. And where does Axon come from? Israel. We are in a surveillance state. We've been in it for a while. This isn't new. And it is unfortunate. But again, there is this uprising that is happening in this country. And all too often, when things go the way that they go, and everyone's looking around and watching everything collapse, the fact of the matter is, it kind of needs to happen this way. You know, the thing that the Zionists talk about constantly is comfort, creatures of comfort. I don't feel safe. I have the right to be safe. No, you don't. Being safe and being comfortable is a privilege. And when people get out of their comfort zones, that's usually when people start to make moves, especially Americans. Americans are creatures of comfort, been that way for far too long. And in the end, people getting uncomfortable is what is going to get them in the streets and get them doing stuff. You have a data center nearby? Not good. Flock cameras all around? Not good. Can't afford food, water, clothes? Not good. Eventually, everything just starts to become so overly concentrated into such few people's hands. But who knows? Maybe part of the so-called Great Reset is that they really do want to kill off a considerable portion of the population, which should not surprise anybody. In many ways, that's probably par for the course in terms of what the intentions are, why we feel the way that we do, and how things can ultimately unfold. But I would be very concerned. And that's why when Fuentes says what he says, believe him. Like I said, he's good at misdirection. He's good at making you think he's really on your side. But the second you say, I'm for data centers, that's it. That's the giveaway. And how do I know that that's the giveaway? This is how I know for sure that it is the giveaway. Now, I have said before, and I will say again, there is no excuse. There has never been an excuse as to why he was able to get away with what he got away with on January 6th when others did substantially less than he did. And many of them went to prison for years. He didn't get so much as a slap on the wrist. So the only possibility, as far as I can tell, is that he's on the inside. Now, what that looks like, I don't know. Is he a Fed? Maybe. He could be a lot of things. He just 1,000% is a protected asset within the establishment. You can't do that. You can't get on a megahorn and say, storm the Capitol. and get away with it. And he got away with it. And he's a public figure. This isn't some rando in the crowd who managed to run away that no one saw. He's a very popular streamer. And so when somebody asks, how can you be so sure that this guy... Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate you staying up late with us. And a shout out to all of our internationals that are here this evening. There is no question that Fuentes is dangerous. He's good, but he is dangerous. And so when his audience hears him say, I think data centers are fine, that's dangerous. So here's hoping enough people are going to start to wake up regarding all of these influencers. And I am not here to tell you, oh, how come you listen to these other guys? If you like our channel, that's great. And I appreciate you all being here. And I hope that you'll smash that like button if you haven't done it already and share the stream if you can. I don't sit around thinking, how is it that we only have as many viewers as we do? And yet, all these other channels that we feel that we're capable of competing with have so much more. It's because what we're learning is that either you're a team player or you're not. Do you realize we're at almost 130,000 subscribers and we still have not received a plaque for the work we did getting to 100,000? We still haven't gotten it. So we understand that we're a marked channel. And we're marked for a reason that is the complete opposite of why somebody like Fuentes would be marked. Fuentes plays within the rules of the establishment. We play outside. And we really play fast and loose outside. Because again, it's the right thing to do. Being right is not a bulletproof vest. But then again, would you do it any other way? I look around and I say, what's going to be our breakthrough? You know, do we have a moment, if you will, where we can say definitively that one domino will fall, and then the next thing you know, we're going to be finally breaking through, especially with all of the frustration that I think a lot of us feel. Yes, I did. She did a great job. I'm not sure if we'll get to her tonight or if we'll get to her on Monday, but it really goes to show you that there are a lot of people out there that are becoming more visible, especially those who are anti-Zionist Jews that want people to know that there really is a distinction between the two ideologies. Now, granted, it's not a majority, but there are a lot. And that is exactly why we need, well, look, status quo, 732,000 subscribers. I'm very happy for Jordan and his channel, and he deserves it. The fact of the matter is, our channel would probably benefit considerably from having some sponsors, because that way we can ease up on the ads. It'll help get the channel out to more people when we go live, because we know we get held back. And so I do think that that plays a role. Yeah, there are things that I would like to do, but obviously this is not my career. This is something I do because I care. Now, if it was a different situation, yeah, I mean, it could be argued, but I don't want to do this as a career. I want to do this because I don't ever want to have to think about whether what I'm doing is something that I have to think about money for. In that respect, you never want to subject yourself to being in a situation where if somebody were to tell you you needed to go in this direction, otherwise things would fall apart, that is the exact reason why I would say, no, can't do that. And so I am I have been optimistic that there was going to be a breakthrough. And Hot Dog brings up a good point. Keith Edwards, who I am well aware of, has 1.4 million subscribers. How does that happen? Because he's in the club. He's definitely in the Democratic Establishment Club, like the Midas Touch Boys and Aaron Parnas and heck, even Hassan Piker. When you're in the club, you're in the club, and you will get certain advantages that you can't even possibly imagine. Algorithmic boosts, sponsorships, drives directly to your channel. We get no drives to our channel. Nothing. Everything is organic. All of you guys probably had to look us up. Now, those who have been watching the channel know when we go live, and that's great. But I want to believe in my heart of hearts that could work. I believe that if nothing else, that you guys who watch this channel are getting something of value out of this. Yes, we have fun. Yes, we joke. We have a good time. And all of that matters. But at the same time, I want you all who are watching this channel to feel that you're getting something of value out of it, that you're learning new things, that you're experiencing a more enjoyable channel that is actually trying to push the agenda forward in the right direction. That is our goal. That is our responsibility. It may not feel that way for a lot of others, but we're not that channel. We're not a channel that's just going to talk nonstop about Donald Trump. Why would we need to when you can totally have Donald Trump right here anytime you want him? Yes, we know Trump is terrible. How about all the other people that made Trump possible? But you see, if you were to talk about that, it would require you to question the system that for so many of them have made them a lot of money. I appreciate that. Well, here's another lesson for us all to learn. I've said for a while that I believe that Candace Owens knows exactly who assassinated Charlie Kirk. I actually have a new theory. I actually think that Charlie might have been alive when they took him into that van. And I do think it's possible that he was killed in the van. This is very much like the JFK scenario where he could not have been allowed to escape alive. Charlie had to be killed that day. And that is why I also think that there was, without question, multiple assassins that were there that day. We know that there were multiple distractions. But again, this all gets back to what we've been saying regarding why did this happen? This happened because somebody of immense power and influence within the political arena, conservative youth politics in particular, decided he wasn't going along with the plan anymore. He was given warnings, probably multiple, and as Candace has shown us in the conversations that they've had, that they did have, he was willing to die for it. He was not going to go where they wanted him to. You can believe what you want to believe, but your own two eyes always tell the story. As I said, I don't need to know about whether or not Israel for certain was involved in what just happened between Morocco and Spain, but every sign says that it did. Trust your gut. It often has the right approach. If it feels wrong, if it looks wrong, and you sense that it's wrong, chances are it's wrong. Tyler Robinson was not the assassin. He was merely the patsy. Here is Candace providing even more information again.
That he has in the footage is completely removed. So let's watch that. Okay. Now, what happens next is exactly as my source stipulated. Our rooftop guy begins a tactical crawl. It's actually known in the military as a lateral crawl. Let's watch that. There he goes. And I actually do want to show you side by side so you can actually see a real military man do that alongside this person on the rooftop. Let's bring in that side by side clip. Here we go.
I mean, that is like, it's like a dead giveaway. Now, what I want to know, and this is the more important part of the story. Why did it take this long for this footage to surface? Why was somebody holding this back for so long? That would be my question. You would think that footage like this probably would have come out within the first few days. And it makes you wonder who's been holding it, what they would use it for. Yeah, there's a lot to be suspicious of here.
General action right there is known as a lateral crawl. Now, you may have noted, if you're just looking at your eyes, some sort of a flash that just took place, right? We're going to show you that slowed down and just kind of discuss this. We've gone back and forth here. What is that? Is he pulling something out? Is it like a signal mirror? Is it a flag? Was it already on Losey Center? Is it actually something that's in the background that's just catching weird? Is it a car? And we're just thinking that we see this flash, but we're just going to show you that so that it's clear. Back and forth flash there while he's military crawling. Here we go. There, and we're running that back and forth there. Okay, so you now have that. Next up, what you are going to see is that it's going to look as though, as he gets into position and completes this lateral crawl, that he thrusts something forward in a way that my brain told me it looked like he was unfolding a gun. Truly, that's what my brain told me. Maybe it's because I had this guy and told me about a fold AR. I don't know, but it's not definitive. That's me narrating. I'm happy for people to disagree and debate what is seen. But let's just watch that portion here. There we go. Something forward, and we can watch that again. Something forward again.
I mean, I know what it looks like from here, even in this very grainy footage. It, to me, appears to be an easily detached rifle, high-powered rifle of some kind. And the same thing I am reminded of when we saw what went down in Butler, PA, when you see a guy crawling across the rooftop in a very similar fashion, and no one does anything about it, which leads one to believe that it's ostensibly how this goes down. That it was always a setup from the very beginning, that there were multiple involved parties to make sure that this went down the way that it did. And from the footage we saw, with the way that everyone sprung into action as soon as Charlie was shot, what did we see? Yeah, we saw certain people rushing to grab Charlie, but there were also others who were doing other things. Tyler Boyer, Andrew Colvett, Mikey McCoy, and of course you have Erica Kirk. You have all of these key players that know something that they're not telling. Now, as I said, the organization is not going to last. TPUSA won't last. I don't know what they think they're going to do or how they're going to maintain this conservative youth outreach, which is what the organization was primarily doing. If you listen to anything that they're doing now, it's basically become a Christian Zionist revival organization of sorts. But that's not surprising. I think one would have expected it to probably go in that direction because at this point, they think that that's all they really have left with it. So the guys that are there are going to try to get as much out of it as they can. But to me, little by little, drip by drip, as I've been, and I'm going to keep saying it, Candace knows exactly who did this. She's just bringing everybody along so they never for a second think about even reverting to the prospect or the possibility that they're going to buy the establishment's narrative that it was Tyler Robinson that did this. I don't even like using his name. I just like calling him the Patsy because that's what he is.
But more importantly than what we see here is what we're not going to see here. So remember, this is supposed to be a German 98 Mauser family heirloom gun used during World War I and World War II. That'll effectively take your shoulder out when it's fired. Even the newer models, if you go watch people shooting, they're like, oh, my shoulder. And if you're looking through a scope, as he allegedly was, you might even expect a black eye. You will recall that the guy who recorded the footage specifically told us that he saw no recoil. That's pretty crucial. He just saw the guy get up and run. And that would be, I would argue, or a lawyer in court, that would be impossible for this specific make and model of gun. So let's watch and see if we, with our eyes, can observe some sort of a kickback. And again, I have to apologize. This is not like Benny Johnson 4K footage, but it's at least clear enough here on your screen that you would be able to discern a strong kickback on a gun.
Any opportunity you can take to take a shot at Benny in the closet, by all means, please take it.
From somebody who's just laying down, taking a shot. So I'm going to let this run. It's about 50 seconds. And you just let me know if at any point you see that before he gets up and breaks into a sprint. Take a look. There you go. That's that unfolding again. And by the way, if you are listening to this in audio, this is one of these episodes that you actually do have to go watch. So you will have to pivot over to YouTube, to Spotify, somewhere that provides the video, because this is not something that we could just produce on an audio podcast here, unfortunately. But this is going to run. We did have to obviously zoom in and push out those fed timestamps, but see here, we have 10 more seconds here. Okay, he is up. Anybody? Anybody see a recoil? I didn't see one, but let's actually put that footage all together uninterrupted. Here we go for you guys to watch. He comes running on to the rooftop. What we know definitively is he gets down into what is known as a lateral military crawl. He begins that crawl over to the right first, and then to the left. We see a quick flash. We are not sure what that flash is. Actually, this looks like, I'm not going to read into it. There's that throw forward. I say fold forward. You can say throw forward, but that's definitely something being flung forward. getting into position. And here we wait for what we expect to be some sort of a kickback. Must have been when our source began recording from the side of a Losi building and said, oh, I just saw someone get up there. He's got a gun. And he's up. And he's gone.
This was a military hit. And whoever is the assassin that came in to do this, or assassins, because it's never just one. There's always a, I'm not saying it's a turkey shoot, but, these things, assuming that it was a bullet, I still think it was probably an exploding microphone. There are many different roles that various people play in something of this significance. That's not a person who clearly wasn't sure of what they were doing. They seemed very sure of what they were doing. Got into their position, took the shot, up, ran, goodbye. And I think this has been pointed out time and again. The amount of stress and pressure that goes into this, unless you are a trained killer, and to get it right on the first shot and the only shot, again, there is a reason why people don't believe this, and they have every reason to feel that way.
What do you guys think?
What I think is that they're running out of time to try to convince the public to not believe their own eyes, to not believe what is painfully obvious at this point. Charlie was a very important key in the future of conservative politics that had to involve the state of Israel. And he decided against it. And he paid the price. When I watch various people in positions of power insisting upon a narrative that we know isn't true, just know, much as I discussed a little while ago regarding Fuentes, it's the same thing. When they show you their hand, believe them. Believe what they're telling you. And what they're telling you is that things are not on the up and up. Tyler Robinson is a patsy. Andrew Colvett, Mikey McCoy, Blake Neff, Erica Kirk, Tyler Boyer, and many others are in on the cover-up. To what extent, I can't say, and I don't know, but nothing is what it seems. And I believe that once this is fully uncovered, and once the consensus is that this was an inside job on Israel's behalf, the floodgates will continue to open. But remember, our goal is to disintegrate this relationship, this unholy alliance between the U.S. and Israel. And it isn't even so much our state. We do have millions of Jewish and Christian Zionists throughout the country. But in reality, how much of the voting, or just of the general population, do they truly make up? My guess, it's not nearly as big as people think. And it certainly isn't anything like it was just a few years ago. Now they're cratering. And it is our job to make sure that we push it over the cliff, and so that it's no more. Just making that statement was extremely bizarre. It had no context. thing we've also learned about so much of what we see in front of us now. They're not good at clandestine operations like they used to be. We have gotten to a point now where everyone believes that everything is a conspiracy. That is the reality of where we're at. I'm not saying that everything is a conspiracy, but what I am saying is that we are developing a segment of the population that is looking at almost universally every major story that breaks and thinks, okay, so what are we missing here? That's a sign that society is changing in a big way. Big shout out to Ben. Big shout out to all of you guys. Candace, appreciate all the hard work. Appreciate all the amazing work that our mutual friend and friend of the show, Mel Whitty, has been doing, as is a lot of other sleuths that are out there who have been putting every bit of time and effort into unearthing this story as well as many others, so that the full display of the Zionist state is there for everyone to see and to come to that realization. I saw commentary from several noted people earlier who said, I've always been very favorable to Israel, but it is painfully clear that they are behind this migrant crisis between Spain and Morocco. Once it becomes clear that their hasbara is not working anymore, they will reduce themselves to the lowest common denominator because they're running out of real estate and the walls are definitely closing in. Now, let's take a quick break before we jump into what I was just alluding to there. If you are enjoying this conversation so far, which we hope you are, please consider going over to patreon.com/revolutionary change for as little as $5 a month. You can become a supporter of our small but mighty, despite heavily suppressed, as is the case even on a night like tonight. We've had a very consistent crowd, a solid crowd, but we couldn't even clear 400. Last week, we cleared almost 800. It's very bizarre, but we appreciate each and every one of you being here, and we appreciate the amazing support of our amazing contributors. So let's give a shout out to Jim Talib with the $5. Great to see you as always, my friend. Pirate Justin with the $2. Still got the purple hair. Shabbat shalom, y'all. He means that tongue in cheek. But thank you. I appreciate you, my friend. The Progressive Lefty, member for 17 months. Purple looks great on you, Pete. Well, thank you. It wasn't my intention, but I'll take it. Libertarian Social Dem with the $4.99. The Massey, Tucker, MTG, Kent First, America First movement must overtake the phony, hateful Groypers. Many are paid Mossad psyops. In a post-MAGA era, Bolzarian is a fraud. I don't think I could find anything that I disagree with in your statement. And we will talk about the Massey, Tucker, MTG, Kent meeting with Jen on Monday, as well as Dimitri Lascaris, who will be our guest on Monday. Carson Cruz with the $10. Wilt, arguably greatest, most rebounds a game, shooting percentage 9 times, highest scoring, second highest career point per game, fraction behind Jordan, and most career blocks, only one to ever average 50 points and 25 boards, and he did it twice. He averaged 25 boards twice. He only averaged 50 once. Will Chamberlain is definitely one of the greatest ever. The reason I don't put him at the very top is because he didn't have a great shot, and he was an abysmal free throw shooter. That has to be taken into consideration, in my opinion. Everybody has their opinion about who the greatest is, and what is the, what really is the most measured way to assess who the truly greatest players are, in my opinion. Again, it's only my opinion, but I think it matters just a little bit. You have to be dominant on both sides of the ball. You have to be clutch in all circumstances. There's a variety of different ways to measure that. But for my money, for all intents and purposes, Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time. Libertarian Social Dem with the 199. I went to see Dave Smith in Fort Lauderdale Improv. Amazing guy. I wish I could have been down there, man. I'd like to meet Dave. I'd like to have him on the podcast. Been trying to get him for a while. Unfortunately, it has not been an easy get, but we'll do what we can to hopefully get him at some point. Lake Vacuum with the 1999. You are awesome, my friend. We really appreciate it. And again, these contributions really do add up. So anyone who's thinking about contributing, it really does make a difference. It actually helps beat the algorithm in many ways because you are directly contributing to the channel. And remember, if you go to Patreon, even more of that contribution goes directly to the channel as well. QC River Rat with the $10. Please interview Professor Yaakov Rabkin. Professor Sachs has interviewed and recommended his books, and I've really appreciated him. His books need more attention. Ben, if you can just take down a quick note about Professor Yaakov Rabkin, we will definitely make note of that. We appreciate it. Judith Ann Campbell with the $10. Planned Parenthood is evil. Shut them down. Now, we may have a difference of opinion as to why they are an evil organization, but here's what I could tell you is my reasoning behind why Planned Parenthood is an evil organization, and they are evil. They are an organization that works as hard as any, especially in Democratic Party politics, to stop the advancement of single-payer healthcare. That, to me, is enough. Teresa with the $2. Perhaps viewership fluctuates with payday. I'm not sure if that's the reason. I think sometimes it's just a question of what gets put out into the ether, so to speak, with the algorithm. I think that is a big part of it. But all things to take into consideration, no two ways about it. And Red Amy with the 1999. Thank you for putting in so much time, bringing this info to all of us. Jen and Peter, you are the best. Free Palestine. We love you, gal. We really appreciate that very much. And of course, again, anybody and everybody who is here, we really do appreciate it. Remember, you could also go over to substack.com/@revolutionary change. Also, we are on Rumble. We are on Instagram. And we are on TikTok. Revolutionary Change. Find us there. Subscribe there. We really appreciate you being here. Now back to the action. All right. Kenman with the 279 Canadian A. We can't forget our Canadian friends. They're very important to us. Chamberlain scored more than any other player. Yes, he did. But I think you also have to take competition into consideration. I do think that plays a role as well. My opinion. But in terms of dominance, Chamberlain is as dominant as any player who ever played. That is for sure. Said just a few minutes ago that when it comes to the hasbara and the lengths that the powers that be within the Israeli movement are willing to go to try to convince you that the content that they're providing is actually going to get people to not hate Israel, that's not true. It's not going to work. All right, I get it now, hot dog. I get it now. Yes. I didn't call him the Big Dipper for nothing. I'd like to know. I mean, I'm asking this honestly. I really want to know. Do attractive women, and again, attraction is subjective depending on who you are, whether you find somebody in question to be attractive or not. Does this type of content really work on anybody?
Stop addressing Ilhan Omar as a congresswoman. I mean, she's literally a fraud. This is a person who came to the USA to corrupt its people and resources. She went from negative $65,000 net worth to over $30 million and denies it. She denies it and she blames it on an accounting error. That's not all. Then there's the winery with no clear location, no wine at all, No phone number, no visible operations. It seems abnormal, doesn't it? And then she proceeds to insult the reporter asking about these things, asking her to explain it to the people. And on top of all of these unknown things, she calls World War II World War XI. So how is someone so fucking stupid able to become an important topic in this country?
Well, I would ask the same of you, because I really don't know. And this girl's name apparently is Savannah. At least that's the name that she goes by. She's not sitting like that by accident. She's sitting like that purposefully to try to get people's attention. And yeah, that's the intent. The intent is to make them seem adolescent. You know, I've mentioned before on the podcast about the changing of pornography over the years, how it gets, yeah, this is the Catfish has it right. Cooter mogging is what they're going with. I mean, there's a lot of things that transpired over the years, but the consistent suggestions towards pedophilia, you know, girls like her, if she's doing what she's doing, and again, apparently she's OnlyFans, shock. She seems like the type of person, she's going to plant herself like that on her chair. She's the type of person that would put pigtails in her head, put on some fake braces, and make herself look like she's 13. And unfortunately, there's a lot of sick fucks out there that think that that's attractive, that's, you know. Yes, Ellie, Rathbone has definitely given her the business. I'm sure he had a lot of fun with this one. But here's the thing. She's not, again, I don't want to judge people just solely based on their looks. I will judge them based on the content of their character. And the content of her character suggests that she's one ugly bitch. But remember, she's doing this for money. Now, how much she's getting paid? Oh, Pete, why did you have to be a weirdo? But yes, I don't want to see anybody sitting like that and I'm a weirdo. Okay, well, everybody has their interests. Everybody has things that you know, attracts them. And yes, she is deliberately speaking in very giggly, youth, ditzy type of a tone, thinking that that's going to attract people. Hey, on some people it works. But is this going to convince them that supporting the state of Israel is a good idea? Finish.
She is literally the trending topic in the United States of America. It blows my mind. She is the opposite of everything that we stand for in this country. And she literally married her brother. We do not marry our brothers here. We don't marry siblings here. We do not do that.
No, but you probably do just about everything else, as long as there's a paycheck involved. People like to say that she married her brother. It's never been confirmed. But I'll tell you what has been confirmed. This has been confirmed. Now look between my legs and repeat after me. Israel is our greatest ally. What else could she possibly be trying to say? But doesn't this also go to show you just how desperate they are at this point? How desperate their hasbara has become? That this is what they have to reduce themselves to. And they'll throw, again, what's going to be interesting is not only if El Sayed wins his election on Tuesday, but by what margin, when you consider that as much as $70 million has been thrown behind Haley Stevens in the last few weeks, maybe a month. And it does not appear that that is going to be the difference between winning and losing the election. In fact, it looks like it might cost them. So light the money on fire. And we all know that when that money gets in there, they're getting spread to a whole bunch of NGOs. She knows what her talking points are. People are going to get paid. But in the end, it's not going to work. You can't have so much of what we've been seeing going on and expect there to be a different opinion regarding these Zionists. Now, this one in particular is very disturbing, but it also speaks to just how depraved and how far these scum fuckers have sunk. The man's name in question, because I do not know if it pops up on the video or not. I want you to understand what supremacist behavior really looks like, regardless of whatever you call it. So his name is going to appear. This is Yehuda Shimon. Yehuda Shimon has an opinion about what these bastards, inhumane scum suckers of the earth are doing to the Palestinians as we speak in Gaza and the West Bank.
Kill one Israeli people, we need to kill all the people in Tel and Sarah, even Jit and Farata. Why? Because we don't want it to happen again.
It sounds like you're saying one Jewish life is worth hundreds or thousands of Palestinian lives.
Not million.
Millions. This is why we pointed this out, and I don't remember the exact date when the shooting happened in DC with the two Zionists and the guy who said free Palestine. I'm sure most of you remember that incident that happened, and I want to say it's close to 2 years ago that it did. Everyone was up in arms about it. They acted like it was the worst thing in the history of civilization that happened. And yet when we have shown countless, endless amounts of stories of these dead children, they're telling you that they're in full support of this. Full support. Not holding anything back. Culturally, ethnically, racially, spiritually, socially, superior to everyone else. That's Jewish supremacy of the worst kind. And they believe it. That is why there is no negotiating with them. There is no common ground with them. As Jen says, we have to lance them off like a boil. And there is certainly some direct pun intended with the use of the term boil. Getting the Jews out of Egypt.
One Jewish life, it's 10 million, okay?
That just sounds racist.
Yes, I know. I know, but this is the truth. Because God chose us. Because of this, you are jealous.
And this is exactly why, if anybody wants to know why I am such a hardened constitutionalist, as much as any reason, is because I believe in the separation of church and state. I do not believe in any form of theocratic governance. That is not what was written into our founding documents. And that doesn't mean that there weren't founders and many that have come thereafter that weren't deeply religious individuals, but they understood that there had to be a separation between personal and professional. We have an obligation as a society to not allow that to infect our daily lives, but it has been run roughshod over us. There is no separation. And they're indignant about it. There are many layers to Zionism. Do I believe this bearded jabroni, this old hat, who, based on his age, it's quite possible he's been there since 1967? Yeah, he's definitely one of those types. He is definitely an ethno-supremacist. We can chalk it up that they will continue to do what they're doing, especially at that point of their life that they are too far gone. And some people were upset with Jen the other night because of what she said regarding the Israeli family that were settling in the West Bank and acting all gleeful about it. This is what they're going to do to people. They don't value anyone's lives other than their own. This is the true form of supremacy. And all too often, I don't really take into too much consideration whether or not we have hardened bigots in this country. Because in almost all circumstances, the ones that you're pointing the finger at are people that have no money and have no power. But these Israeli Zionists do. This is a captured Palestinian, and these are two female IDF soldiers mocking him. And Lord knows what they're doing to him. And this is yet another example of how this gets passed down generation to generation to generation. It isn't going to stop. And I'm not saying that we're in a situation where we're going to have to go to war against Israel, although there's a part of me that wouldn't mind. No, the fact of the matter is, we as Americans, as America First Americans, have to bear this in mind. We have an obligation to break away from this as fast as humanly possible. That is why when somebody says, you repeat this content quite often, so what's the purpose? Where is the value? The value is simple. Think of it as why Candace constantly has to talk about Charlie's assassination from a multitude of different angles. It's quite clear. You have to beat it into people's brains until they're basically repeating it verbatim. There's just no other way. The consistency is what wins the day. They want these stories to go away. They don't want to see these babies being blown up. They don't want to see the depravity of the Israelis, but we're going to show them. We have to show them. People have to understand that there is no going along to get along with any of them. They are inhuman slime. All of them. And it, in some respects, does pain me to have to say it that way. But this is who they are. And it permeates throughout the youth. They are violent. They are depraved. And here's a little more.
I got a funny joke for you. I got a funny joke for you, motherfucker. You like that funny joke? Yeah. You uneducated fuck? What's the tampon that you're wearing? You stupid piece of shit. What's that tampon that you're wearing? Do you know what that means? What do it mean? That means fuck you to you, not to me. That means fuck you to you. How that makes sense? Gain some fucking knowledge. How that makes sense? Learn about it. Yeah, you don't even know what the fuck I'm saying. You don't even know where my family's from. Do you even know what the fuck is coming out of my mouth? Do you know where my family is from? Get the fuck out of here. Do you know who our family is? Get the fuck out of here. I don't give a fuck about who you are. Still wearing that? You're an ignorant piece of shit. I don't have to. So make me. I don't have to. Only a dumb fuck. So make me. Take your tampon and fuck off. It's not going anywhere. Just come on. What's up? Bitch. You're not finna make me move.
Well, I tell you, those Zios, they're really tough when they've got a fleet of cops standing around them as a protective brigade. So I want to remind you again, this is what this tough guy decided to flash at him. Let's see if we can clip it. He did it quick.
I got a funny joke for you, motherfucker.
There it is. So he actually tattooed what appears to be the star with a fist. Yeah, like that. That's one sick fuck. Now keep in mind, he's not doing this in Tel Aviv. You know where this is? This is Brooklyn. This is on our soil. And they're doing this. When you think about what they try to do here in this country to try to push out other people, like they're doing to the Haitians right now, or they were doing to the Somalians, we never see them trying it with them. And these people are not loyal to this country by any means. You know, the thing I've learned about a lot of them, a lot of the people that come here, they love this country with a vengeance, as they said about Tony Montana. It's the immigrants that come here with little to nothing to live on, to survive on, but their wits and their stick-to-itiveness to make it. The Zionists who come to this country, frankly, in some respects, they're actually born here, but their loyalty, as little Ben Shapiro talks about, it's to their cause. And Israel is just a symbol. That can change at any time. That could end up becoming Argentina, Cyprus, Thailand, wherever they could bribe their way in. You know, like that small town in northern Italy, parts of Greece. They're going to do this wherever you can. And Murdoch is right. Either from Poland, they're from Ukraine, they're from Russia, they're from the Eastern Bloc. That's where they're from. Now, do I have certain amounts of sympathy for people that get caught up specifically in what goes on at the very top with the likes of the Rothschilds, and that just becomes kind of like a waterfall effect as it relates to everybody else, assuming that they're all the same? Maybe for a time, but not anymore. And not for many, maybe hundreds of years. But so much of this we learn, it is kind of amazing that we're where we are and that they're still acting like this, which again, it also proves that there is no self-reflection at all, and there never will be. So we as Americans have an obligation to send them away or just cut them off entirely. That is our responsibility. And if you think that it's limited to just these scumbags, it isn't. Friend of the show someday, the gentleman who runs Palestinian News Network, confronted a whole bunch of these little Zio fuckers on the other coast. This is in Beverly Hills.
Are you ready to go? Get out of here, buddy. What the hell? Get out of here.
Let's try this again because the clip, Benny's coming in really choppy.
Sir. Sir, are you ready to go? Get out of here, buddy. What the hell? Get out of here. You got the highlighter.
Fancy manicure, very expensive telephone, and the cars and the clothes, and it's always about the class war. I cannot emphasize this enough. The people who side with this are people from very comfortable backgrounds who live very comfortable lives. This is not your average everyday people. These are people who are extremely successful, who are Nepo babies, obviously, and they're Zionists on top of that.
Ma'am, I'm not going to speak on minors. We'll let her breathe. We'll let her do herself in. What do you say? Give them enough rope. Any last words, ladies? Nothing? Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Get out of here.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
You're a clown.
You're a clown.
Get the fuck out of here, bro.
Get out of here, bro. It's so funny. It's really funny.
Yo, I like your shoes, bro. He's rocking the KD rainbow colorways, bro.
Sir, what are these shoes? Can you tell me?
Ugly.
Can you tell me what they are? Name them.
I don't know. They're ugly.
A6.
They're A6. Don't bother someone else. Why are you here? Why are you here? Don't bother someone else.
Support Palestine.
Why? Just nothing better to do.
Nothing better to do?
Yeah.
You know they're committing a genocide, right?
Now, if you want to see what the face of stupidity actually looks like, you're looking at her. And I understand that she's maybe 15, 16 years old, but this is two faults. Two. On the one hand, you have the parents who feed them this hasbara bullshit and they buy it. And then on the other hand, they have social media. She's got TikTok. She's got Instagram. She knows what's going on. But the supremacist ideology is what they believe. They have convinced themselves that they are the victims, that they are forever victims, and will never, ever break away from that mindset. And the biggest reason they won't is because it is beyond beneficial to them economically to do so. The real danger is that these are future generations coming up now that are just like their parents. They're not going to change. But again, the real danger here is that they have a lot of money and they have a lot of power. And that's not just going to go away like that. I wish it would. I wish that there was more youth that are aware of this. And I would say that, and again, I can't measure this based on any knowledge I have outside of what I've seen. I'm pretty instinctual about whether I think that there is a difference between where things are going with the youth regarding, in this case, Jewish Zionism versus Christian Zionism. But I'm going to guess, I'm just guessing here, the issue is much greater with the youth with Jewish Zionists than Christian Zionists. And I say this because with Jewish Zionists, it's culture versus Christian Zionists, which is religion. And continuing to kill, maim, and desecrate in the name of religion can't last the way that a cultural superiority complex can. And it's obvious that that's what's happening here. We'll finish it out.
Everything you see is fake on TikTok. Everything you see is fake.
Really?
My sister's boyfriend is head of the IDF. He's a commander in the soldiers of his.
And there it is. My sister's boyfriend is a head of the IDF. And he would never lie about this.
Oh,
did he ever get his leg blown off or anything?
No, but he got injured.
What was his injury?
Because of the Lebanese people.
No, I'm laughing at the IDF soldier who got his arm blown off. That's funny, right? Isn't it funny when guys say fuck that? No joke. No. I'm 48.
You're 48? What? You're 48 years old with no job, Mr. People out here to mind having weird. No. That is 48. No.
You guys have done boring.
That's the face of entitlement. And in many ways, that is the face of Zionism. Extremely privileged, extremely obnoxious, extremely condescending, and extremely privileged. I think I said that twice. But yes, the privilege is real. The frustration is real. And I believe that these actions are going to continue to make life miserable for the average Jewish person, whether they believe in Israel or not. But we're at a point now where they brought this on themselves. I can't sympathize. Not with what we know, not with what we've seen. The evil that is in this world, they are a product of that evil, and they have become evil. And they will manifest that evil even further. They'll create their own little evils in the not too distant future. So again, the lesson here is simple. Very simple. We have to disintegrate this relationship, this unholy alliance with the Zionist state as fast as humanly possible, or we are damned for it, and they will drag us to hell with them. I don't want to go there, and I doubt any of you want to either. If you've enjoyed this conversation this evening, which we hope you have, please consider, and if you haven't already, as Benny said, let's get those likes up before we get out of here for the evening. This was not the biggest crowd, but it was an amazing crowd. You guys were absolutely fantastic. The conversation was lively, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. One more time, patreon.com/revolutionary change for as little as $5 a month. You can become a supporter of our small but mighty, despite heavily suppressed, yet still growing channel. So let's get to our final super chatters for the evening. We got a handful more. Danielle from hell. You're not from hell. You're from heaven. Member for 9 months. Jen and Pete, please check out a young Irish girl, Ali McForever. Ben, if you can write that one down, Ali McForever. I will check her out. Judith Ann Campbell with the $10. Free Palestine. You got that right, sister. Pete with the $25 super chat. I'm frustrated with the talk of stopping aid to Israel. We should be way beyond that. They need to be stopped by any means necessary. We are entering a phase, if you will, of where that's ostensibly what's going to happen. This is exactly why when you see all of the activity that is happening now, people are growing more and more frustrated. Violence is simply inevitable. DPB with the 1999. Good job. No, thank you for being an amazing supporter of the channel. Someone somewhere with the 199. Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate your support. Citizen Pendejo with the 50 pesos. Hope Savannah got paid millions to make up for totally torturing her rep. Number 2, you'll surpass Wilt's scoring with the Jared Leto's Joker. Look, you are flashing, Pete. I don't know what you mean by that, but I'll take it as a compliment. I appreciate it. Carson Cruz with the $10 again. Thank you, Peter and Ben. Thank you for your amazing support, my friend. And last but not least, Hot Dog becoming a YouTube member. Thank you as always, my friend. And thank you all. Remember, we can't do it without you. So we hope you enjoyed it. Smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things we ask you to do. We love you all. We appreciate you all. We'll see you Monday. And free Palestine. Good night, guys.